On the 5th day of Christmas, the European Soccer Show brings to you 5 European leagues, 4 title races, a 3-way fight for the European Golden Boot, 2 winter pauses, and Wolverhampton Wanderers still haven't won a game. Hello, everybody, and welcome back post-Christmas. And with me, as ever, is Leo. Leo, what is it? Joyeux Noël.
Joyeux Noël, yeah.
Joyeux Noël.
Merry Christmas to you.
Did you have a Merry Christmas?
Yeah, I did. And what an introduction to introduce this post-Christmas show. Incredible.
Yes, I've been doing nothing the last 4 days apart from writing this nonsense. So welcome everybody who's joining us both on the live stream and afterwards. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've not supped and eaten too much because my goodness, we've got a feast for you today. Not only do we have 2 sets of results from the English Premier League, 2 sets of results from the Italian Serie A, but we've also got to cover last week's results for the Bundesliga, La Liga, and we might even look over France. Maybe not. But anyway, so we're going to start with our hors d'oeuvres, our meaty hors d'oeuvres with the Premier League. So just to remind you, so we've got the before Christmas and post-Christmas results. Before Christmas, you had Newcastle United and Chelsea having a fantastic 2-2 draw, one of the matches of the season. Bournemouth drew with Burnley 1-1, not one of the matches of the season. Likewise, Brighton drew with Sunderland 0-0. Manchester City beat West Ham United 3-0. And of course, there was a goal from Rangers, which of course is very Christmassy. Lots of stuff for Rangers. We also had Wolverhampton Wanderers 0, Brentford 2, Spurs 1, Liverpool 2, Everton 0, Arsenal 1, Leeds United 4, Crystal Palace 1, and then afterwards, Aston Villa coming from behind. They kept from 1-1, sorry, to defeat Manchester United 2-1, and Fulham defeating Nottingham Forest 1-0. That was before Christmas. Then everybody supped, everybody ate, everybody was jolly. Well, not quite everybody, because Wolverhampton Wanderers lost again. But apart from that, most people were happy. So on Boxing Day, you had Manchester United 1, Newcastle United 0, despite Newcastle United's intense pressure. On the Saturday, the day after the 3rd day of Christmas, Nottingham Forest lost at home 2-1 to Manchester City. Leo's protege, Cherki, doing wonders still. Arsenal defeated Brighton 2-1 with one of the saves of the season from David Raya. Brentford defeated Bournemouth 4-1. Bournemouth's complete slump continues. Burnley and Everton drew 0-0. Yeah, Liverpool defeated Wolverhampton Wanderers 2-1 in a very emotional match, paying tribute to both teams' former player Diogo Jota. West Ham United lost at home to Fulham 1-0, another Fulham 1-0. Chelsea lost at home to Aston Villa, who came from behind to win 2-1. That is another victory for Aston Villa, which I believe is 11 from 12, which is insane. And then yesterday, Sunderland and Leeds United drew 1-1. Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring yet another goal. And finally, Tottenham Hotspur ended the season with a smile on their face because they actually won, winning 1-0 away at Crystal Palace. My goodness, that was a lot to catch us up on.
Yeah, so I think it deserves a bravo.
Merci. So let's put this down into more manageable bite-sized pieces. As we said, these were the hors d'oeuvres before the main course. So like the little nibbles and the little... what are your nibbles over Christmas for France? Because we usually have things like twiglets and whatnot. Probably some smoked salmon and...
Yeah. We have foie gras and everything, which is
foie gras, mon dieu. Okay,
cheese,
so let's look.
Cheese, of course, but
lots of cheese. Well, I mean, yeah, lots of cheese here. So let us talk about football. Sorry, that was a lot of stuff to throw at you guys. So we're going to look at the title challenges first. So Arsenal, of course, won both of their games. Manchester City won both of their games, and Aston Villa win all of their games, apparently now. So we are 1 match away from the halfway point, and we have a 3-way title fight, which is very, very exciting. Which of these 3 performances were you most impressed by? Arsenal, Manchester City, or Villa?
I think I will go with Aston Villa because when we remember the start of the season, they didn't win in their 5 first games in the league. They didn't score at all, and now they are in a fight with Arsenal and Manchester City to win the league, which is extraordinary. I don't think a lot of people could have expected that a few weeks ago, us included, of course. And I just want to say bravo to Unai Emery, because he's a really underestimated coach, in my opinion. Really impressive what he has done with Aston Villa since he has been hired by the club. And what a performance against Chelsea once again.
It's really interesting because the topic of their financial difficulties or restrictions rather have been brought up, because obviously with January coming thick and fast, the January transfer window, a lot of people have been talking about potentially Aston Villa, how they bolster the squad because they are in a title challenge, and do they sort of roll the dice and hope for the best, and are they actually able to bring any players in? But it's also interesting bringing up the point that the vast majority of players that Unai Emery uses were players that he didn't sign. Actually, the players that they seem to have signed since he came in are either squad players, or they were brought in and then immediately sold on because of the financial restrictions. So it may well be one of those cases where actually perhaps signing players may not be the best option.
I don't really know. He has, I think he has a really talented group of players. We talked, because of course we saw Oli Watkins scoring twice against Chelsea, but you also have Boubacar Kamara, who is, in my opinion, a really great midfielder. Morgan Rogers is also a great player. He has a lot of, how can I say that? He has great players, both in defense, in midfield, in attack. So, of course, it's easier to play with this kind of players. But when you take a look at their game against Chelsea, you see that it's from his substitutions, his choices into the game, because Aston Villa didn't play their best football, I think, and he made some changes with Jadon Sancho, with Oli Watkins, and it worked, and it permitted Aston Villa to bounce back and beat Chelsea. So I think he's a big part of their success. And I saw a piece. I read a piece in the Athletic asking, is he the best manager in the Premier League right now? Because could have Arteta or Guardiola make the same thing with Aston Villa?
Well, that's a good point to bring up, because of course a lot of Villa's performances have, let's say, lack control. And to be fair, we probably say the same thing about Manchester City. It seems to be a common theme that actually throughout this wonderful run that they're on, which I believe is 6 matches, 1 in a row, 7 matches, something like that. They've actually only been in control of a couple, and the others they sort of either lost control or they fought back to squeeze a victory. Like, for example, the victory over Nottingham Forest on Saturday, where they were slightly fortunate because Ruben Diaz probably should have been sent off, and that could have changed the results. And as it turned out, very much Cherki is not just for Christmas; it's for life. Christmas Cherki, lots of puns there, as well. The fact that Rangers scored again. Whereas Aston Villa seem to scrabble every single game, and yet it's the tactical choices and the tactical adjustments that is the reason why they're winning.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you were talking about City. I think you asked me earlier what team between Arsenal, City, and Aston Villa impressed me the most. I think it's Aston Villa for the reasons we have talked about, but we also need to give some credit to Manchester City, because we can see that Pep Guardiola had to change his way of playing after last season, which was difficult for Manchester City. He now has a player in the person of Ryan Cherki, a special player, a player who needs to be free on the pitch, and Guardiola is like someone who doesn't really like to have not control over his players. Of course, he had Lionel Messi, but it's to have Messi. It's different than to have any other players in the world. And Cherki, I'm not saying Cherki is a Messi 2.0, but he's the kind of player who need to be free on the pitch to be able to express himself. So it's interesting to see how Cherki managed to adapt to Manchester City and to Guardiola, and how Guardiola managed to adapt to Ryan.
That's a really good point, because I think originally he started out as sort of the outside right, inside forward kind of situation, so being on the wing and then cutting inside. Whereas, as we've seen in the last sort of month, he's playing a lot more centrally and is actually enjoying a lot of almost like another Phil Foden kind of role, except obviously Cherki's very two-footed. But it does seem that they could both actually play together. It's very interesting what's happening there.
And I have a question for you. Do you think Cherki is on the top 3 of the best Premier League player at the moment? Because he missed weeks of competition. He's been playing only 9 full games in over 18 appearances this season. He has scored 4 goals, assisted 8 times. He's the top assist provider in the Premier League.
Truthfully, sorry to quickly answer before you move on.
Go.
It's one of those cases where I'd probably say, winning player of the month, absolutely, because the form is without question. But it's more a case of like how long a period of time this is. As you said, he's only started 9 matches, and sometimes you get players who take time to adjust to the league, any league they move to. Sometimes a player jumps in and actually they're incredibly successful before players figure them out. So it's also, probably a good idea to sort of not jump too quick into it. But he certainly had an incredibly impressive start to his career at Manchester City. But looking at the top of the Premier League, so Arsenal, despite the fact we barely mentioned them, Arsenal top on 42 points after winning 3 in a row. Manchester City 2 points behind them on 40, and Aston Villa 1 point behind Man City on 39. In 4th place are Liverpool. They've also won 3 in a row, and they are now sort of kind of stabilizing in 4th place in that Champions League spot, and they actually have a nice gap over Chelsea. They have a 3-point gap over Chelsea. Chelsea have only taken 6 points from their last 6 league games. What's going wrong at Chelsea? Because even the points they have picked up, for example, the draw against Newcastle United, they're quite fortunate to manage that. So something, considering Chelsea beat Barcelona brilliantly only a few weeks ago, things have gone a bit wrong, haven't they, recently?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you are saying. Chelsea are a strange team to analyze, I think, because sometimes they play very well and they lose these games when they are playing well, and sometimes they don't and they win those games. So it's difficult to say. Chelsea, we have seen them in the last few months. You mentioned Barcelona, but we can also mention their victory over Paris Saint-Germain in the
Club
World Cup final. Yeah, they were really good in those games against big opponents. They won 3-0 both times. But for example, the games against Aston Villa this weekend, they lost it, sorry, but I think they were better. And
we probably
games...
can't ignore the fact, sorry to jump in, but you probably can't ignore the fact that 2 of the most impressive results in the last 6 months against Paris Saint-Germain in the Club World Cup final and against Barcelona, 5-6 weeks ago. We should probably read into the fact that they were 2 teams that press very high. And also play that high intensity football, whereas Chelsea were able to at times play out from the back, but also know when to play long and have players like João Pedro who are able to hold the ball up and bring other players into possession. So it's probably one of those things where actually Chelsea a lot more impressive against teams that attack them. But of course, in the Premier League, there are very few teams that will do that.
do you think they have trouble when they need to when they need to play when they got the ball on their feet, in their feet?
Well, I mean, look again, sort of thinking back to the Paris Saint-Germain match and other big profile matches, probably not. But once you start losing a couple of players from the back, say Levi Colwill, for example, you lose that fluidity and that familiarity you have between defenders. So therefore, it may not be quite as slick and quite as natural passing between them, all the little angles created. So that's probably why more mistakes have crept in because of injuries and defense. But we should probably move on because Chelsea are still fifth. They're still having a very good season. They are level points with Manchester United, who are also having a holly jolly time of things currently. Although, of course, they lost to Bruno Fernandes last week. But I want to look further down the table because there are some teams who are having had a wonderful Christmas period. Brentford won both of their matches, and they are up to 8th now. Brentford, who are one of the teams highlighted for a real relegation battle. Fulham, they're on a wonderful winning run as well. But I want to highlight Leeds United, who drew at Sunderland this weekend. But just after Christmas, they beat Crystal Palace 4-1. And I have to say, Crystal Palace have lost 3 matches in a row, but they've also got a small squad. They've got Europe to deal with. Inevitable this was going to happen because they've had a lot of matches, more so than any other team in the last 12 days. So Leeds United now have a 7-point gap over West Ham United in 18th place. They are undefeated in 5. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is scoring lots of goals. Have they got a big enough gap between them and West Ham, do you think? Because the gap is now 7 points. Do you think that's enough? Do you think Leeds United have shown that that's enough? They have shown that they will probably stay up now.
Yeah, we've discussed that point in the past weeks. And the question was, can Daniel Farke stabilize Leeds United and help them to stay in the Premier League? Things are going clearer now. As you mentioned, they have not lost one of their last 5 games, and they have faced Chelsea, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, and Sunderland. So, which is impressive. You've mentioned the
and all of this, of course, started when they lost at Manchester City, but it was an incredibly impressive defeat, for want of a better phrase.
And you've mentioned Crystal Palace. When they received Crystal Palace at Helen Road, Crystal Palace were one of the best informed team away from home. So, which is even more impressive to win that way. You also talked about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He had a very difficult last year with
last couple of years, actually.
Last couple of years.
A lot does seem to rest on him staying fit because his injury record has been awful. But he's had a run of games and he stayed fit, and it shows that actually his quality is still there.
He has now scored 7 goals in his last 6 games, and the more important, because you can score a hat trick in 2 games, but no, he has been doing so in 6 games in a row. So it shows that he's in a superb form, and of course it helps to have this kind of asset in a team battling to stay up. So
of course, free transfer starting to look like a savvy bit of business, actually. We should have to move on, though, because we are 90 minutes in and we are still on the Premier League. But again, it's chunky because we've had a couple to deal with. We're going to do the same thing over in Italy. That's right. Rather go to the main course of our meal today, we're going straight to the panettone. So, in Serie A, before Christmas, pre-Natale, I believe it is. So Lazio drew 0-0 with Cremonese. Juventus defeated Roma 2-1. A brilliant result there. Cagliari 2, Pisa 2, Sassuolo 0, Torino 1. Torino getting a valuable victory there. Fiorentina, the big news was Fiorentina won their first game of the season.
Finally.
It helps that Udinese got a red card in the 7th minute, and I believe it was their goalkeeper that got sent off. But still, Fiorentina won 5-1. That brought smiles to the faces. And Atalanta won at Genoa 1-0. We'll talk about the Supercoppa Italia after we've done the league. Let's go to the weekend's results. So just passed on Saturday, Parma defeated Fiorentina 1-0, despite the fact Fiorentina were actually the better side, probably. But things are looking slightly better for Fiorentina, but that's not saying much. Lecce 0, Como 3, Como refinding their form. Torino 1, Cagliari 2. Cagliari, another impressive performance from Cagliari. Udinese 1, Lazio 1. Keenan Davis, 5th minute of stoppage time, equaliser for Udinese. And Pisa 0, Juventus 2. Juventus scoring 2 late goals to squeeze that one through. On Sunday, AC Milan beat Verona 3-0 through goals with Christian Pulisic and a couple from Christian Nkunku. Napoli won 2-0 at Cremonese through a couple of goals from Rasmus Højlund. Bologna 1, Sassuolo 1. Bologna's form again sort of starting to stutter. And Atalanta 0, Inter 1. A solo goal from Lautaro Martinez. So looking at this, first of all, let's give credit to Juventus, because Juventus have been very stop-start throughout the season. And a lot of focus has been put on them and the necessity of them having a good season. And they seem to have stabilized. They seem to actually have a bit of form. They've won 4 of the last 5, including the last 3 in a row. And they're currently 4th place.
Yeah. And they have beaten Bologna. They have beaten Roma in these games.
The 2 teams directly competing with them for 4th place.
Yeah. And today they are 4th. They maybe we don't really talk about them because there are other teams. Maybe we can think about both Milan's team and Napoli, especially. They are maybe more starstruck than Juventus, but Juventus are doing great these days. And their next games, I think they can win. They will play Lecce, Sassuolo, Cremonese, and Cagliari. I think they can win a lot of points from these games. So it will be a good opportunity for them to stay in the top 5 teams.
And potentially close the gap to the top. I should point out, so currently Inter are top on 36, AC Milan 35, Napoli 34, they're your top 3, and then Juventus on 32. However, Juventus have played a game more because all 3 of those teams and Bologna were playing the Supercoppa last week, so a 1 match behind. But you make a very good point. So the fact that Juventus have a kind run of fixtures means that, say, in 3 or 4 weeks' time, the gap actually might be a lot closer, because these other teams, not only do they have their own set of fixtures, but they've also got to have an extra one in there as well to catch up.
Yeah. And also it's important. It's important for them to win these games in January, because after that, there will be the Champions League knockout stage and everything. So if they can win these points now, maybe the other teams will lose points in March, April, if they go far in the European competition. Even if, of course, AC Milan don't play in European Cup this season.
It is bad to think that AC Milan is still undefeated after the first day of the season.
Yeah.
Which is an insane run of fixtures. Beneath Juventus, I should point out Roma could actually overtake Juventus if they beat Genoa tonight. Yeah. And then, because Roma are obviously still having a fantastic season, despite the fact their form has also slipped slightly. We mentioned it earlier, going sort of back down to the bottom. Fiorentina won their first game of the season, which was huge. 5-1 victory, brilliant performance, and sort of you could feel the tension release slightly. Now, they also lost to Parma, who are in a relegation battle, but they've got a bit of breathing space. But it has to be said, Fiorentina are still 5 points behind Genoa. So hypothetically, if Genoa beat Roma tonight, probably won't happen, but if they did, Fiorentina would be 7 points from safety. It's that mad thing that I think we said about Wolverhampton Wanderers, that even if they won 3 matches in a row, they would only just catch up to 19.
Yeah.
That's how far behind. So likewise with Fiorentina, they need to win 2 matches just to get within touching distance of safety.
Yeah. On that subject, I read an article on a website specialized in the club that said that they now have like 91% chance of being relegated at the end of the season. Personally, I find it a little hard to believe because I think they have talented player. They have they are a talented team, and they also have the means to reinforce themselves during the mercato. So it's 91%. It's just a statistic, and it worth what it was. But I think they have the potential to save themselves.
Well, the interesting thing is, even with that victory, so if you go down the form table of Serie A, there's only one team with a worse form than Fiorentina, and that's Pisa, who are immediately above them. So the fact is, Fiorentina, yes, they won a match, and they drew one as well recently. So that's 4 points in the last 6 matches, which is still awful. It's still the joint second worst in the entire league, along with Torino, actually. While the teams above them, Verona, Genoa, Lecce, Parma, Cagliari, all of them have won more points than them in the last 5 matches. So it's like not only are they that far behind, but the other teams are actually pulling away. So Fiorentina need to react. So hence why 91%, I think, because again, we're saying, all right, Fiorentina, if they win 3 matches, they're back to safety. All right,
but they need to.
Where are those 3 wins going to come from?
Yeah, but this is what I think is exciting in Serie A, is that there is something at stake at every level in the table. If you, it's not like in the Bundesliga, for example, when you know that it would be a miracle if Bayern Munich don't win the league. Here, every team has something to play for. The title, we've mentioned AC Milan, Inter, Napoli, and everything. The European competition, qualification, and the fight to stay up. And it helps to make the level of the league grow, because no one can rest even after a win. So that's exciting.
Right. Well, we're going to park Serie A and talk about the Supercoppa Italia. So yes, the Italian Super Cup. Now, of course, back in the day, the Super Cup would just be the league winners against the cup winners, and that's the Super Cup. But of course, a few years ago, they sold it to, is it Saudi Arabia, the Italian one is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they sold it to, and now they hold it there, and there's a semi-final, etc., etc. So last week, in fact, a few days before the league fixtures, Napoli, AC Milan, Bologna, and Inter all went over to Saudi Arabia and had a little tournament, and we have a winner. So the semi-final, first of all, Napoli defeated AC Milan 2-0. With goals from David Neres and Højlund. So despite the fact that Napoli are not able to rotate much at all, they are still having success with David Neres. And Højlund is really, really having a terrific season. The second semi-final, Bologna and Inter drew 1-1. Marcus Thuram scored for Inter. Orsolini scored a penalty for Bologna. They went to penalties and Bologna won 3-2. So in the end, the cup winners played the league winners. Hooray! The system works. So the final, Napoli against Bologna, and Napoli came out the victors 2-0, 2 goals from David Neres. So yeah, Napoli winning the Supercoppa Italia. Now, obviously not the most prestigious trophies to win, but it's still a statement of intent. The fact that Napoli, despite being third, they've got a trophy in the bag. And despite the injury crisis, it feels like there's more to come from them.
Yeah, you're totally right. And I think it's interesting to see that the main men of the victory were David Neres and Rasmus Højlund, because we've mentioned them in the past shows. David Neres has been terrific this past week, and Rasmus Højlund is having the time of his life at Napoli, even if he had difficult times to start. He's now the new Lukaku guy of Antonio Conte. He has scored 9 goals in all competitions.
He's actually quite similar to Lukaku in some ways, because I mean Lukaku is also a bit of a battering ram as well. Like, he's so powerful.
Yeah,
but Højlund
that's
shares
why.
some similarities. Actually, he's tall, he's quick, but he's not rapid. But he is very strong.
Yeah, that's why I think he's like his Lukaku, and we all know the link between Antonio Conte and Lukaku, and the importance of the player at Inter, for example. So it's interesting to see that, and I think Antonio Conte is the manager that can help Højlund to grow, because of course I think we judged him maybe too early when he joined Manchester United. Even if when you are a player of Manchester United and these big clubs, Barcelona, Real Madrid, I don't know, Liverpool, of course it's you will be judged also by the importance of the club. But Højlund is only 22, and he shows that he's capable of shining in a big team, a league champion, because Napoli won the league title last season. So it's good for him. And now, which is interesting, is to see what will be his future, because just as a reminder, he's just on loan from Manchester United to Napoli, so it will be interesting.
True, but there is I believe there's an obligation to buy in that clause.
Yeah, I don't remember. So you are certainly
it's either
right.
an obligation or an option. I'm fairly certain it's an obligation, though. But much like Marcus Rashford at Barcelona, it is surprisingly low fee. So again, even if it's say 40 million euros, considering the season he's having, he's clearly actually worth more than that, especially considering his age.
And another Manchester United player shining abroad.
Sorry, I'll be honest, if our editor Sean watches these, he just get constant abuse for Manchester United. Although they're having a good old time currently, so hey ho. So a word quickly before we finish off with the Italians. Talk about Inter and AC Milan. Do correct me if I'm wrong. So Allegri's in charge of Milan, right?
Yeah.
And Inter is Christian Chivu?
Chivu, yeah.
Chivu, sorry.
Chivu. I don't know how to
it's considering both. I mean, first of all, the fact that AC Milan are undefeated in so many matches since the opening weekend of the season. Allegri is clearly doing an excellent job, as is Christian Chivu. Do you think that the lack of experience for Chivu might be the deciding factor, considering Allegri has been here, done it many times, and obviously this is Chivu's, what's this, third match season in management?
Yeah.
Something like that. So do you think that might be the deciding factor? Because on paper, Inter's squad is stacked. You know, it is capable of playing in all these different competitions and going deep in all of them and potentially winning all of them. Whereas AC Milan are just concentrating on the league, and the league is what Allegri is very, very good at winning.
That's a tough question.
I know.
Because a few months ago, I don't think a lot of people would have bet on Chivu to succeed at Inter, because as you said, he's not experienced at this level of training. But I think the fact that Inter has a squad which is really better, in my opinion, than AC Milan will count at the end. But if you remember when they played one against each other, AC Milan won against Inter just a few.
Crazy match, wasn't it? 4-3.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Wasn't it just a 1-0?
I'm thinking of something else, clearly.
Oh no, but wait, let me.
Then I'm thinking of something else. Then surely.
It was. Okay, I don't remember. But yeah, sorry. But yeah, I think Inter will win this league because last season we do not forget that they lost everything on the line, whether it was the league, the Champions League, the cup. Of course, they want to take their revenge because they need to. They have something to give to their fans, and I think they will do because they have great players and maybe they are the best team in Italy. But I think
certainly the best squad. They certainly have the best squad.
Yeah, I think they have the best squad with Napoli, and I don't really know if I think AC Milan will finish third or fourth in the league, not in the first two.
Big cool. Right. Okay. So we're going to leave that there, and we're going to move off to Spain. I've lost where my Christmas dinner analogy is, but apparently we're going Spanish with this one. Yeah. So going back before Christmas, because Spain had no midweek games or any this weekend, so something of a break, even though it's not an official one. So in La Liga, Valencia and Mallorca drew 1-1. Real Oviedo drew 0-0 with Celta Vigo. Another 0-0 for Oviedo. Levante 1, Real Sociedad 1. De La Fuente got a fourth equaliser in the 4th minute of stoppage time for the Levante, an important point for them. Osasuna beat Alaves 3-0. Real Madrid beat Sevilla 2-0. On the next day, Girona 0, Atletico Madrid 3. Brilliant performance there. Sorry, I'm going to just rocket through these. The big match, which should have been in Miami, some of them were saying, Villarreal 0, Barcelona 2. Again, helps that Villarreal got a red card in the first half. Elche 4, Rayo Vallecano 0. Brilliant performance there. Real Betis 4, Getafe 0. And Athletic Club de Bilbao 1, Espanyol 2, coming from a goal down to claim the victory there. So La Liga, the state of things. Barcelona are top on 46 points, and Real Madrid are second on 42. And then now you've got a bit of a gap between them and Atletico on 37. So not only it feels like a 2-horse race, but Barcelona really are building momentum, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And you've mentioned Barcelona victory over Villarreal, but Villarreal, they have 2 games in hand. So
they are. Sorry, I'll say that. So you're right. Atletico Madrid have 37 points. Villarreal have 35, only 2 points behind. But you're absolutely right. They got 2 games in hand. But the worry is, of course, that as I think we mentioned last time we met, Villarreal. Perhaps one of the reasons they struggle in Europe is because they can't do the 2 matches a week thing, so they can't in the league. So therefore, if they have another fixture pile up because of these two extra games, maybe they're not given. They're not given. But sorry, I interrupted you. So
no problem.
You said.
For Barcelona, they secured a valuable win at Villarreal. So before Christmas, it was really a thrilling game between those two. It wasn't perfect from Barcelona. Once again, I want to say Villarreal could and maybe should have scored if Garcia didn't make some great saves. They had a lot of chances, but never mind. They managed to come out on top in the end. You mentioned the 9-point lead now over the 3rd place. It was another game in which Rafinha was brilliant. He proved decisive, and since he returned from injury, so the game against Chelsea in the Champions League, even if Barcelona lost 3-0, he has been terrific, and he shows why I don't think he's Barcelona main man, but he's in the top 3 most important player for Barcelona, and both and on and off the pitch, because he has a status and he proved that he's worth it. So I want to applaud Rafinha for everything he's been doing with Barcelona, because he has been great.
Yeah, certainly since like I said, replacing Rashford in the team, and considering it's such a good season for Rashford, he had to step up. Of course, no one had a jollier Christmas than Kylian Mbappe, partly because the Christmas present he has been ordered to receive from Paris Saint-Germain in the tens of millions of euros. But also, so do you want to reference? So you say Mbappe received 18 out of 18. What's that referencing?
Yeah, it's because he has simply scored 18 goals in 18 La Liga games this season, which is
good round
terrific.
number, isn't it?
Yeah. And
So
for
apparently, sorry.
yeah, no, just to say that for Real Madrid, the situation is really simple. When Kylian Mbappe scores, Real Madrid win. So
yeah. I saw an article as well, which basically laid out 2025 for strikers, because obviously currently Erling Haaland, Kylian Mbappe, Harry Kane posting stupid numbers in regards to goals scored and provided in a couple of cases. But Mbappe has scored the most goals. He is the top goal scorer in 2025 in the top 5 European leagues, which I don't know. It feels like it goes under the radar slightly, because Erling Haaland currently seems to be more prolific, especially at the start of this season. But like, he's very much just the end result for Manchester City. Harry Kane basically just dominating the Bundesliga, but also he creates quite a lot from deep as well, whereas Mbappe creates from the front, if you see what I mean. So as opposed to Harry Kane, who can play those insane passes and has the vision, Mbappe creates those opportunities, but still manages to basically to make the right choice at the right time.
Yeah, I think Harry Kane is the most complete player of the three you have mentioned. And Haaland and Mbappe have different profiles too. So it's interesting to see that 3 different profiles are the 3 best top scorer of the year, because Harry Kane, I think, is more like a playmaker for his teams. Haaland is more a box player, and
but Mbappe, I think this is kind of my point. But it doesn't. I suppose I didn't really think that Mbappe had done more than those two, but he has scored more goals.
Don't.
Do you think? Ironically, despite the fact he's probably the most expensive free signing in history, free. But yeah, do you think he actually gets the credit he deserves in this season, considering the stuttering form of Real Madrid? He seems to have remained consistent. But then I suppose that's why you get world-class players, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's simply the reason, because he's a world-class player. Even when he played at PSG, sometimes a lot of games, to be honest, were bad from him. But he scored. And what's his role? What do people wait for are asking Mbappe to do is to score goals. So even if he is not the best in, I think his footballistic IQ needs to be improved. We've discussed that last time in my I think, but he's a terrific goal scorer. If you give him, just let him some space, and you're like 90% sure he will score a goal. Like Erling Haaland, when he's in the box, he will always find the net. And Mbappe, when he knows that at the end of the season there is a World Cup, you can be sure that he will be at his top form.
I would say as well, like, for the first time, England may actually get Harry Kane, who's not exhausted, because he's finally had a break mid-season before the tournament. With fingers crossed. Interesting. So actually, let's look at the bottom of La Liga. So I did reference it before, Levante drawing 1-1 with Real Sociedad. The reason I highlighted it was because Levante had lost 5 matches in a row before, like, say, De La Fuente scoring from the penalty spot in the 4th minute stoppage time. So sort of stopping the rot. They are currently bottom on 10 points, 1 point behind Oviedo. And there is now a gap being created between them and Girona. Girona is still 18th, but they are 4 points ahead of Oviedo. 1 point ahead of them, Valencia. 1 point ahead of them, Real Sociedad. So Sociedad are still within 1 defeat of going into the relegation zone. And then 1 point ahead of them, you have Osasuna, Mallorca, Alaves, Rayo Vallecano. This is turning into quite the fascinating relegation fight, isn't it? Maybe not for all 3 teams going down, but that last relegation spot, currently you've got 7 teams all within 3 points of each other. It's tense, isn't it, for a lot of these sides?
Yeah, it is. And we have to mention that contrary to the Premier League, Ligue 1, or even Bundesliga, there is no playoff game for the 17th place. So the last three of the table, they will be relegated, and this makes the situation very exciting, because if you're in Premier League, if you're 17th, you have the opportunity to stay up, but not in La Liga. So you need to gain points, and always try to win these games. Having only 3 points between 18th place and it's like 12th place. Yeah, it's impressive. It's incredible. And I noted that quite a few leagues have this configuration at the moment, and which makes we've talked about Serie A just before, and which makes them all exciting. So
yeah, it is. It really is exciting, and it's wonderful for it's wonderful for, because we reference it with the Premier League, how the last two seasons the three promote teams were the ones went down, and it becomes a bit stale and samey. Whereas now, currently in the Premier League, it looks like one of the three promote teams will get relegated, which means two of the ones that have been there a while are in trouble. Now you look at the same thing in Italy, you look at the same thing in Spain, and suddenly it becomes you guys maybe have become a bit complacent, and you've got these these other teams sort of grabbing the bull by the horn, sort of thing. Like, this is an opportunity. So like, sort of smelling the weakness. Right, we're going to put that hyperbole aside, and we're going to cross over to Bundesliga. I had something about a Christmas log for the Bundesliga for Christmas dinner, but you know what? I'm just going to park it. We're done. It's indigestion. It's too much. Right. So before Christmas, Borussia Dortmund defeated Borussia Mönchengladbach 2-0 with goals from Brandt and Bayer. Augsburg 0, Werder Bremen 0. That's enough of that. What I've don's the barbecue derby. So the hamburgers and the Frankfurters drew 1-1.
This one is quite nice.
Thank you. That was 1-1. Köln lost at home 1-0 to Union Berlin. Late goal for Schaefer there. Stuttgart 0, Hoffenheim 0. The game of the round, definitely Wolfsburg 3, Freiburg 4. Brilliant match. Wolfsburg were ahead 3 times, I believe. And Freiburg somehow won. It was brilliant. RB's Leipzig, despite their fantastic form, they lost at home to Bayer Leverkusen 3-1. Leverkusen, who have surprised people by actually good form again. And then the final day before the Winterpause, Mainz 0, St. Pauli 0, and Heidenheim 0, Bayern 4, with goals from Stanisic, Michael Olise, Luis Diaz, and of course Harry Kane. So that was the Bundesliga before Christmas. So in a couple of weeks, I'm intending to do sort of like a mid-season review for all the leagues, because obviously we get into the halfway stage and things, so on and so on. But it's hard to give Bayern anything other than, because we've said this, but anything other than an A+, A star, whatever you want to call it, because they've only dropped 4 points all season, which is remarkable consistency. But then when you see there are goals from Olise, Diaz, Kane, and of course on the bench you've got Nicholas Jackson, and you still got Musiala to come back. It's something like this squad is disgusting, isn't it? They have not. I mean, to be fair, they did invest a lot of money in Luis Diaz, but actually he seems to have complemented the side really well.
Yeah, I made some math because of course Bayern are a scoring machine, and they have already scored 55 goals in the league. So just say in 15 games, it's okay. They got 22 more than Leverkusen, who are the second top scorer in the league. If we just talk about teams, and it's an average of 3.6 goals per game, which is just outstanding. When you watch Bayern Munich, you just know that there will be goals, and not only 1 or 2, but a lot of. Which is funny because I've noted that there was 3 0-0 draws during this match day, which is quite unusual for the Bundesliga. So yeah,
but they were getting ready for Krampus.
Yeah.
But yeah, so actually, talk about credit. I feel like more credit needs to be thrown Leverkusen's way because they've got 12 points from their last 6 matches, and in that time they beat Newcastle United in the Champions League. They're potentially, well, they're currently I think 9th or something like that. So they are very close to actually going through automatically to the next round of the Champions League. So if it does feel like they were vindicated in actually getting rid of Ten Hag so early on in the season because actually they've stabilized and have well, they've stabilized. They've again decent form throughout the season. They've won some important matches, and I think they only drew 0-0 with Dortmund. I think in a very dull game that might have been Leipzig. But yeah, so Leverkusen, do you think they deserve a bit more credit because currently Dortmund seem to be sort of nonchalantly walking away to second place because they're just doing kind of enough, but not actually anything special. Whereas Leverkusen and Leipzig seems to be Leipzig seemed to be very impressive for a long period of time and then have a stumble. Whereas Leverkusen, there's a roundabout way to get to the point, but Leverkusen do seem to have like scrapped and fought for a lot of the season, and yet they are still in a good place. So therefore, credit needs to be given to them, surely.
Yeah, Leverkusen, they make me think a little about of Aston Villa because they had a difficult start to the season. They got the dismissal of Erik ten Hag, even if, of course, Unai Emery didn't quit Aston Villa. And now they are third in the league after the victory over Leipzig, who have now lose two of their two last games. And you've mentioned Dortmund, and I think I find incredible is that Dortmund they have only lost 1 Bundesliga game this season, but they are still 9 points behind Bayern Munich. Yeah. And I think that's where you see the difference between Bayern Munich and the other teams. The depth, the quality of the squad. And I was thinking about that earlier today. It must be very frustrating for to be a fan of Dortmund because you know that they never really have anything to play for because they can't really compete with Bayern Munich at the top, except on several occasions. But they are too strong to play for the qualifying spots for the Champions League. So you know that if you are a Dortmund fan, you will finish your league 2, 3, maybe 4 of the league. You will maybe compete with Bayern Munich for 10, 15 match days, but in the end, you will just be Dortmund the second or Dortmund the third.
This is one of the things because earlier on in the season, one of the reasons why they got rid of is it Terzic who was in charge before?
Yeah.
It was about the identity of play. So of course, ever since Klopp left, there doesn't seem to have been sort of a long-term plan regards to what is the tactical identity of Dortmund.
It's Kovac, Niko Kovac.
Kovac, sorry. So of course it's Kovac. Apologies. And yeah, I suppose that seems to be the way. So like the fact that they nearly won the league a couple of years ago, we've mentioned it a few times. The fact that they sort of completely dropped the ball on the last day of the season, but those opportunities don't come along very often, and that's why it was so important to take it. Because without that tactical identity, this is just going to consistently happen. Because, well, you're sort of waiting for the other team to make a mistake, as opposed to you improve or you think of a new way to win. I'm actually going to end it there because, as it's the festive season, I've got quite a few quiz questions and little games at the end. But before we do, we've got, before we go from the Bundesliga, you mentioned that Peja Cintovic from Paradise to Hell. Would you like to explain that?
Yeah, because it was quite difficult for him, a difficult afternoon, because you've mentioned the weekends.
I was going to say, for those who don't know who he is, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, he's the striker of Wolfsburg. He replaced Mohamed Amoura, who is currently playing at the AFCON with Algeria. He has been preferred to Jonas Wind, who hasn't scored a single goal in the Bundesliga. He's a young player, strong player. He's 20 or 20. He had been playing in the Bundesliga 2 previously. Freiburg trainee, Augsburg trainee. Sorry. And you've mentioned the game between Wolfsburg and Freiburg, which was obviously the big game of the weekend because of the results. And he scored a hat trick, his first Bundesliga goals, and this is the kind of hat trick that are extremely difficult because Freiburg finally won this game. So he scored, but he obviously had a terrible taste at the end of the game. So I just wanted to highlight that because it was paradise for him to score his maiden Bundesliga goals. But the thing is that,
people won't remember it. It's like when the team scores an absolute worldie, but they lose the match. Suddenly it's like, that's that moment's gone.
Yeah, but 2 seasons ago,
the ultimate. Sorry to go. Someone pointed out that, for example, Scotland against Denmark, the World Cup qualifier.
Yeah.
The fact that Scotland scored 3 ridiculously good goals, but had Scotland not qualified, they would have all been immediately forgotten. Whereas Scotland dominate. Overhead kick goes down into history, as does the goal from beyond the halfway line, as does the volley from a left back on the wrong side of the pitch. It's all of that because they won.
Yeah, of course. It reminds me of a game in Ligue 1 two seasons ago, Lyon versus Montpellier. Eli Wahi scored 4 goals in the game. Montpellier were winning 4-1, and then Alexandre Lacazette scored also 4. And the game went from 1-4 for Montpellier to 5-4 to Lyon. So Eli Wahi scored 4, but nobody remembered it. And
chances are he wasn't even man of the match.
Yeah, that's cruel.
Yeah,
he was.
Right. So before we get into all my lovely Christmas questions, although they're nothing to do with Christmas, 3 things we may have missed this week. You want to lead off with this one?
Yeah. First, because we didn't talk about France today because there was no game.
Sorry. We should point out, we're not talking about Ligue 1 because not only did they not play this week, they didn't actually play last week in Ligue 1. They did play in the French Cup, however.
Yeah, and there was no real
Leo,
surprise.
You've got in 5 words. Did anything happen in the French Cup last week?
Brest
5 words.
Brest were eliminated, and 15 of the 18 clubs in Liga were qualified. Or 16, I don't remember.
But so Brest were eliminated. That was the only shock. Brest fell flat. Yes. So sorry.
Bravo.
So, merci. But anyway, so 3 things we may have missed. You go with one.
Yeah. The first is that Franck Hez is no longer the coach of Nice. If you have been following the Europa League this season, you'll have noticed that the club have lost their first 6 games in the competition. They are currently bottom of the league. This trend, they are also experiencing it in the league. They have suffered strings of defeats too. So as decided to leave by mutual agreement with his new president because...
Did I read that he offered his resignation and then withdrew it?
Yeah, he did. He said at a press conference that if his management think he's the problem, he would accept to leave. But then he said, okay, I will stay. And so now he finally leave. And his replacement has been named as Claude Puel, which is...
Hey, does everybody remember the name Claude Puel?
Yeah,
well, he managed Southampton in 2011.
Yeah, and Leicester City in
Leicester
England.
City?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. In 2018?
Yeah, something like that. And his final experience was at Saint-Etienne in 2021, so it's been a long time. And just to have a
can I just check
final
that
word.
he's in a caretaker role, isn't he, to the end of the season?
Sorry?
Is he coming in as a caretaker role to the end of the season, or is it
Or
is it a long contract?
I'm not sure. I think it's like a fireman. He's just like
Yeah, I
for
see what
the
you mean.
end of
Yeah,
the season. Yeah. And just to have a final word on that, he has been the manager of Nice between 2012 and 2016. So he has experience at Nice.
Yes. Okay.
What do you have for us?
Well, I'm going to highlight Leeds United again. For those of you who haven't seen it, the goal scored by Dominic Calvert-Lewin. There was a brilliant graphic that went around social media last week of all of Dominic Calvert-Lewin's goals this season. And it's brilliant. From the very center of the goal, there's just this straight line that goes down for all of his goals. So from sort of 4 yards out to 12 yards out, but it's this perfect straight line. Now, the goal this weekend sadly ruins it slightly because it's off center by like a yard. But the reason I want to highlight it is because every single member of the team touched the ball before the goal. So all 11 players had touched the ball before the goal was scored, which is always a kind of like an impressive thing whenever that happens. But for a team like Leeds United playing away at Sunderland, who are so tight defensively, it was actually a really, really impressive goal. And yet actually was scored from about 6 yards out. So yeah, worth a watch, worth a look if you haven't seen that.
Yeah, and my final thing you may have missed this week is about Andy Carroll. I don't know if you that story. He's facing prison for violating a protection order, which is issued to protect victims of domestic violence. So he's due to appear in front of an English court. So, which is a terrible story. Yeah.
Yeah. But we're gonna sort of give that serious story its space, take it over there, and we'll wait for further developments. But for now, we're going to go to stupid games. That's right. We're going to end the section with some silly games from me. Well, the first one is actually a game rather than a quiz. So I introduced it to you in chat last week, but we didn't get a chance to play it. It's called When Will Wolves Win? WW for the 4 Ws. When will Wolves win? So I have in front of me the fixtures of Wolverhampton Wanderers, and you and I are going to decide at what point will Wolves win a match. You with me?
Yeah, and I want to apologize to Wolves fans if you are in there.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they're probably thinking the same thing. When will Wolves win? Last week we were going to actually have Fiorentina as well, but actually they won. So they're from this. Okay, so next up for Wolves, playing midweek, they are away to Manchester United. Will they win?
No.
Okay, good one. Moving on. So the very first weekend of January, they are at home to West Ham United. Will they win?
They can, maybe, yeah.
Maybe. Okay, we've got a maybe. Okay, after that, midweek, there's a lot of midweek stuff happening. They've also got a small squad and they've got a lot of midweek action. Midweek, after that, they are away to Everton. Will they win?
No.
Okay. We should also point out Wolverhampton actually have won a match this season, but it was in the Carabao Cup, so they've not. It's not a league match. Because after the Everton game, they are at home to Shrewsbury Town of League 2, I think, in the FA Cup. So assuming they win that, but that's not the league. Okay. After that, they are at home to Newcastle United. Will they win?
Sorry, but no.
Okay. They are away at Manchester City. No. Okay, never mind. Interesting. They are at home to Bournemouth. Now, this is Bournemouth who, if we assume they followed the same pattern as last season, had a brilliant start, really struggled in December and January because of fixture pile-up and small squad, and then redid themselves a little bit before, again, falling flat. So, Wolves at home to Bournemouth. Will they win?
That's interesting. Even more if Semenyo leaves Bournemouth this winter.
Yes, of course, yeah. So that's another maybe?
That's another maybe. But
Okay, so
I have a good feeling for that West Ham game. I don't
yes,
know
well,
why.
I was going to
but-
say that's the whole of January, and we have
Yeah.
two maybes. But we are sort of putting our hat on at home to West Ham United, because West Ham United, despite the fact they are above them, they have also been pretty awful. I should also say after that, they're at home to Chelsea, away to Nottingham Forest, which you think maybe, but Forest at home are a different beast. Away to Crystal Palace, home to Aston Villa, home to, it just doesn't end, does it? Away to Brentford, home to Arsenal, away to West Ham United. Will they?
Thank you, West Ham, for everything you have done for.
Okay, that's the end of the game. Okay, so we're looking for West Ham United. All right, that's what we're thinking. Okay, so to end, I have just a sort of question. It's a tricky one. So rather than a specific answer, or rather specific statistical things like that, I'm going to ask you about form. Like, which are the most informed teams in each league, besides the obvious ones? So, for example, in the Premier League, outside of the top four, which team has the best form in the league? Outside of the top four. So outside of Arsenal, Man City, Aston Villa, and Liverpool. Arsenal, City, Aston Villa, Liverpool. Outside of the top four in the Premier League, which team has the best form? And by form, we mean the last 6 matches.
Last 6. Brentford, no?
It's a good guess. Brentford have 10 points from the last 6
You
matches.
have mentioned it earlier, so
I have.
I remember.
Yes, but I mentioned someone else earlier as well.
Leeds United.
Good guess. 9 points in 6 matches.
So it was not Brentford.
No, Brentford have 10 points.
Okay.
Brentford have won the last 2 matches. They have another win, another draw. So they're good form, but not as good as
I would have loved to say Wolves, but but Liverpool have been doing great.
They're 4, so outside the top 4.
Oh, okay. I don't think I know.
See, the reason this is so hard is because I've been going through all the leagues and sort of like, obviously the top teams are pulling away and their form, and the bottom teams tend to sort of sink down. But you've got, because of all these interesting teams in the middle, they're all obviously winning the similar amount in points. So actually we have in both Serie A, in sections of La Liga, in the Premier League, you have these big sections where teams can jump because they all basically are winning the exact same number of points as each other. Also 5-6 matches, but one team has rapidly climbed the table. Relegation threatened only about 4 weeks ago.
Oh,
barely bought anyone in the summer.
I don't have any idea.
They've won 3 matches in a row. The last 2 have been 1-0 victories with solo goals. Got sole goals from Raul Jimenez.
Wait. Why am I like that?
Raul Jimenez.
Sorry,
it's okay. It's Fulham. It's Fulham. Fulham have won 4 matches, 4 of their last 6 matches, and they are currently 11th.
Oh,
10th. They are 10th. They're up to 10th. So considering it again, only a month or so ago, we were, including myself, we were all talking about them being in a relegation battle. They seem to be okay now. Yeah, incredible. Let's do that again, but this time Serie A. So outside the top 4, Inter, AC Milan, Napoli, and Juventus, which team has the best form over the last 6 matches? And by form, we mean number of points won.
Yeah.
This one's a bit easier because it's a tie between 2.
Can it be Como?
Como is one of them. I'll give you that. The other one is the team currently in 15th.
15th.
Oh,
La Cremonese.
No? Oh no, Cremonese are much higher than that. No, it's Parma.
Okay.
Parma have won 10 points in their last 6 matches to really pull away from the relegation zone. That's it. Okay, 2 more. So in La Liga is a bit easier. So La Liga is just aside from Barcelona.
Yeah, I know that.
Apart from Barcelona,
Espanyol have been really great.
5 wins in a row for Espanyol. Currently,
and they will play the Derby de Barcelona this weekend.
Really exciting. Really exciting. And then finally, of course, the Bundesliga, outside of the top. I mean, actually, this is kind of a stupid order because it's so close between everybody. Let's say in the bottom half. Actually, no, that's stupid.
Gladbach have been doing.
I'll tell you what, I'll do it this way. Outside of the top three, who is the best form?
So the top three is Bayern, Dortmund, Leverkusen. Yeah.
This is a bit of a rubbish one. All the other ones were fun. This one's a bit sneaky.
Union Berlin, Stuttgart have been.
No, Stuttgart's their form's really dipped recently.
Okay.
Hoffenheim have form outside of the top three. Sorry, they are fifth. They are fifth. They are ahead of Stuttgart and Frankfurt. Yes, and finally, the last question, which actually I think is pretty easy. You'll get this one. Okay, so there are two teams out of all the form in the last 6 matches. There are 2 teams that have not won a single game in there. In fact, they have lost all 6 of the last matches. They have a big fat 0. So, which 2 teams across the top 5 European leagues have the worst form? Both of them are the only teams to score no points.
Over the last 6 games.
Specifically, yeah. Only 2 teams. One you can probably guess already.
Nice.
Hey, Nice. That was the other one. Of course, the other one being
Wolves.
Yeah. So not so nice for Wolves because they're both pointless in the last 6 matches.
Yeah.
In Wolves' case, longer. Okay.
They are nice Wolves.
Yes. So that brings us to the end of this extra long episode. But of course, we had extra lot of things to catch up on. Things to look forward to next out. Well, there's more midweek action in the Premier League. And oh my goodness, I do believe it's Aston Villa against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Very exciting. But we'll cover that next week. Hey, it's been so good seeing you. So good talking to you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. And thank you for sitting through this extra long episode. With me, as ever, was Leo. Merci, Leo.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you to all the people watching us. And just to let you know, we will talk about the AFCON after the group stage is finished to make.
We'll have a sort of a roundup. Yeah. I say we,
yeah.
You are way more informed than I am.
We will
in most things. Thank you, everybody. Have a great new year, everybody. And we will see you in 2026.
Yeah, and see you next year.
Yeah. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
And